Hey everybody, so continuing the talk about free agency here. Today I put together a list of my top 5 free agency surprises that happened on Wednesday when free agency opened. And by surprises, I mean I am surprised that said player went to said team. These were definitely deals and signings that caught me a little off guard, and I really wasn't expecting that particular player to end up with the team that they ended up with. So, obviously, this is just my opinion, and all of you may have different surprises from free agency that you think were surprising as well, but I wanted to go through my top 5 surprises where guys ended up on teams that I was not expecting. So before we get into it, I just ask that you please hit that thumbs up and subscribe. It helps the channel a ton and is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it. Top 5 free agent surprises. Coming in at number 5 for me, not a big one, but Nick Bonino going to the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, this wasn't a star player or anything, but 2-year deal, $2.05 million for Bonino in San Jose. I was just surprised that Bonino would want to go to a team like the Sharks. San Jose is, well, they're ridden with bad contracts for underperforming veteran players. They're not a team that has much depth. They're not going to be going to the playoffs anytime soon. San Jose's headed for a rebuild. Whether they want to admit it right now or not, San Jose is headed for a rebuild. And I thought Nick Bonino would want to go play on the bottom 6 for, at least a playoff level team. Maybe San Jose offered the best contract. Maybe San Jose offered the most money. I don't know what caused him to go to San Jose. I was just surprised that he would go to a team like the Sharks, who probably aren't going to be very close to making the playoffs this year. Bonino's already a Stanley Cup champion. He won twice with Pittsburgh. I figured he would want to go somewhere where he would have a chance to win another Stanley Cup, or at least be a playoff team. But he decided to go to San Jose and he signed there. I don't know if he didn't really have many other offers out there or what the deal was with that. But Bonino still seems like a pretty solid 3rd or 4th line center. And I think that there are some, playoff level contending teams out there that could have used Bonino as a 4th line center or even a 3rd line center. So that one definitely just caught me off guard a little bit, that he would go to a team that probably isn't going to be in the playoffs this year in San Jose. I thought he would want to go to somewhere with a little bit more of a chance to win. Coming in at number 4, this one is shocking to me because he got signed at all, and that is Tony DeAngelo going to the Carolina Hurricanes on a 1-year, $1 million deal. Obviously, you've all probably heard about Tony DeAngelo by now. I don't need to go deep into that. Off-ice issues are the thing here. On ice, this contract could end up being, if he plays to his peak on ice, this contract could end up being an absolute steal. But the problem with DeAngelo is off the ice. And I honestly didn't think anybody was going to sign him, at least not right away. I think that, I was kind of expecting, as we got into September, closer to training camp, a team might take a chance on him. And they might say, you know what, we'll bring him into camp, maybe give him a PTO, and see how it goes from there. I was not expecting day 1 of free agency, a team to just go right out and sign him. And that definitely caught me off guard, just because of the bad press and the off-ice issues surrounding DeAngelo. So I was definitely surprised there that Carolina signed him on day 1 of free agency. And the other thing, I was a little surprised that it was Carolina, to be honest with you. There are definitely some other organizations around the league that I wouldn't have been surprised. I would have been like, they'll take a chance on that. Carolina isn't a team that I thought of as kind of a take a chance on that kind of organization, but Carolina's had a very weird offseason this year, and I don't know if it, I'm not going to say if it's good or bad, but they've had a very different offseason than I was expecting from them. And some of my, more preconceived notions about the Hurricanes are kind of being pushed aside with what they've been doing this offseason. I think it's been a very, very interesting one for them. But at the same time, they do have Rod Brind'Amour as their coach, and they think that if anybody is going to be able to get through to DeAngelo and get him set on a better path, at least to keep him in an NHL lineup, Rod Brind'Amour might be the coach that is able to do that with the respect that he has and the weight that he carries as, such a well-respected former player who has now become a very good coach. Maybe they think Brind'Amour can handle DeAngelo and keep him somewhat straight and on the straight and narrow, where at least enough to not cause a lot of problems. But we'll see. I was just surprised that DeAngelo got picked up on day one for sure. Coming in at number 3, Phillip Danault to the Los Angeles Kings. It's a 6-year deal, $5.5 million per season. And the Kings were not a team I was expecting Danault to end up on. This is a pretty long-term contract at 6 years. And the most surprising thing for me is the fact that LA is a team that is just starting to come out of a rebuild, have a lot of young talent coming up through their system, out of the AHL and into, trying to make the Kings team. And, you already have Anze Kopitar as your number 1. Presumably, Quinton Byfield is going to be your number 2 center. So that already knocks Phillip Danault down to the 3C spot. And now you're paying your third-line center $5.5 million per year on a 6-year contract. And they have Alex Turcotte coming up as well. So then what? What happens when Turcotte is NHL ready? Do you try and move him to the wing? Does he take the 3C spot and then you send Danault to the 4th line and he makes 5 point? You're not paying a 4th line center $5.5 million. I was just surprised that LA would lock themselves into a long-term, fairly big contract with a veteran player when they have so many young guys coming up. I mean, I don't know if they, aren't convinced Turcotte is going to become what they thought. I don't know if they don't believe in some of their other younger guys coming up or what the deal is, but this was a very win now move by an LA team that has kind of the young talent to still be building for the future. It definitely just caught me off guard a little bit, and I was not expecting him to go to the Kings because I would have imagined that down the line, they were hoping it would be Kopitar, Byfield, and Turcotte down the middle. Now you've got Danault into the mix, and that kind of shakes things up a little bit on a long-term deal. So we'll see how that all shakes out long-term, how that all works out. It definitely just surprised me a little bit. Number 2, Dougie Hamilton going to the New Jersey Devils. I wasn't expecting him to go to New Jersey. New Jersey's another team that is rebuilding. They're kind of like on that cusp of like still in a rebuild, trying to come out of it. I think based on what they've been doing, I think this coming year they're trying to be their first year coming out of it. And really start making that push upwards in the standings and that push forward. And they go out and they sign defenseman Dougie Hamilton, the biggest defenseman on the market, to a 7-year deal at $9 million per season. I mean, Dougie Hamilton's a very good defenseman. He's going to put up points for them. It's a big contract, though. It's a big, big contract. And for a team that's like just starting to come out of a rebuild, I was just a little surprised. I thought Hamilton might end up on more of a win now type team, but he's obviously trying to be one of the key pieces that pushes New Jersey from rebuild to win now. And we'll see what he's able to do there. But New Jersey's another team with a lot of young talent. They've got, Ty Smith there, who I think is phenomenal. They brought in Ryan Graves earlier in the offseason and trade with Colorado. I was a big fan of that move, and their defense core is really starting to come together in New Jersey, and Dougie Hamilton now is added to that. But number one, the biggest surprise to me in the entirety of free agency so far is goaltender Philip Grubauer going to the Seattle Kraken. He gets a 6-year deal at $5.9 million per year. Obviously, Grubauer was a Vezina finalist with Colorado last year. Now, I do think that him playing on Colorado and having that good of a team in front of him definitely upped his numbers a little bit and made him look a little bit better than he actually is. But there's no doubt that Grubauer is a very good goaltender. I don't think he's an elite goaltender, however, but I do think he's very, very good. I just wasn't expecting him to go to Seattle at all. That one shocked me. I mean, after the expansion draft, it seemed like Seattle was locked in with Drieger and Vanacek as their goalies. I didn't think Grubauer would want to go to Seattle, who, it's very, very much a question as to how good they're going to be or not. I honestly thought Grubauer was going to end up staying in Colorado. I'm shocked that they didn't get a deal done between the Avalanche and him. But he ends up leaving in free agency. He goes to Seattle. Seattle then trades Vitek Vanacek back to Washington, gets a draft pick for him. And Grubauer now is going to be the starting goaltender for the Seattle Kraken, and Chris Drieger is going to be there as the 1B/backup guy to go along with him. And it definitely took me by surprise, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see how Grubauer does in Seattle with a team in front of him that, honestly, his roster is shaping out to be a pretty good team. I don't think they're going to be terrible, that's for sure. They're a pretty good team. I don't think they're a great team. They're definitely not Colorado level, who was the President's Trophy winner last year. But I think they are going to be a decent team, and Grubauer is going to have a solid defense in front of him. So it's going to be fun to see how he does there. And that was the biggest move, though, that just shocked me. I was not expecting Grubauer to end up in Seattle, and that was my biggest surprise of free agency in 2021. So those are my 5 biggest surprises. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know what your biggest surprises were. What contracts caught you off guard as far as the player ending up on whatever team they ended up on, because these guys I did not expect to end up where they did. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon, merchandise store, donation link, and channel memberships are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about the channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.